Hi everyone, I'm Martin and welcome to another MH Runners Club coaching talk. Today I'll be trying to tell you everything you need to know about tapering. Now the taper is a really important part of getting ready for your race, and although I'm mostly going to be talking about marathon training today, it does apply to other races as well. It just tends to be that the taper is a lot shorter, maybe just the last week of what I'm going to be talking about later on in the video. Now, over the last few months, I'm sure that your training will have got gradually harder and harder, both harder and longer runs, plus also more overall weekly mileage. Now, you'll probably have had cutback weeks through your training so that you reduce your workload and allow your body to recover. And the taper is the final cutback of them all, okay? A chance to reduce your workload in order to reach your target race recovered, fresh, and ready to perform at your best. Now, as a coach, I see so many different people doing so many variations of tapering, and it can be very individualistic as to what works for different people. But much of the research is also done on male elite runners, so it's sometimes really difficult to extrapolate that down to us normal folk. Now, today I'm going to focus on why and how you should be tapering in order to get your very best performance on race day. Now, as always, I won't be able to cover everything, so if you do have any extra questions specific to you, I will be running a free Ask the Coach session on the marathon taper and race day during the week of 5th of September in my free Facebook community, which you can find by searching Facebook and MH Health and Fitness online community. Plus, I run a live question and answer session every Thursday here in the MH Runners Club Facebook group. Now, if you're not watching this there, okay, you can find more details at www.mhrunnersclub.co.uk, and I'll include all of those links in the show notes. Now, what is the taper? So let's start with what the taper is. A taper is a reduction in training intensity before a major race or event to give the body time to recover and adapt to reach a peak in performance. So simply put, what we do is we reduce the mileage for the last couple of weeks before your marathon so that you don't have tired muscles when you start your race. As your training has increased, you may have noticed an increased feeling of fatigue or tiredness, muscle aches and soreness, that type of thing. You want to allow your body during the taper to recover and repair. Now, this means reducing your mileage in a structured way to allow you to peak for your race. So how do you taper? Okay, there are two things to consider here. How long should your taper be and what it should consist of? So we'll start with the first question first, okay? How long should your taper be? Now, tapers, okay, a reduction in your training volume and possibly intensity generally last anything from a few days for shorter races up to 4 weeks. Now, a traditional taper for a marathon is 3 weeks. This is because it takes the body 3 to 6 weeks at the most to adapt to any training that you're doing. So training in the last 3 weeks is really going to make little positive fitness differences, okay, whereas taking time to reduce your training stress whilst increasing your rest and recovery can make all the difference by reducing the fatigue levels. So there is some really interesting research based on Strava data of 158,000 tapering marathoners that came out last year. So that's a really big sample size. Okay, the research was very well documented, and I'll include a link in to the full study in the comments. Now, it's worth a read if you feel like geeking out a bit, but the conclusions backed up what as coaches already suspected. A strictly followed 3-week taper is best, okay, with female runners actually benefiting more than men. And you can decrease your marathon finish time if you get the taper right by over 5 minutes. Now, what if you can't or don't want to taper for 3 weeks? Whilst the results of a 4-week and 2-week tapers aren't quite as good as a 3-week one, they still convey lots of benefits, okay? Longer than 4 weeks or shorter than 2 weeks, and the benefits dip exponentially. Over 4 weeks and you will lose both fitness and possibly confidence. Under 2 weeks and you're just not digging yourself out of that hole of fatigue, so you're going to go into race day feeling tired. Even if you've missed training weeks or long runs from your plan, you can't make any physiological adaptations in the last couple of weeks that will help you. So in conclusion, 3 weeks is optimal, and I'll discuss how to implement that first, but also we'll then look at a 2-week and 4-week taper and see how that can work in certain circumstances. So how should you taper? The longer the training cycle, okay, so if you followed a 20, 16 or 12-week training plan, the higher the mileage that you ran during your training period and the more tired you are, then the longer your taper should be. So if you followed a 20-week plan to the letter, then I would definitely consider a 3-week taper. If you did a shorter 12-week plan or struggled with injury or illness, so you missed some weeks in the middle, then a shorter 2.5 week taper may benefit you more. Possibly from a confidence standpoint more than actual physiological adaptations, but sometimes it's good for your head to get to that 20-mile mark, even if it's just 2 weeks before. The longer your taper, the slower you want to reduce your mileage. So for example, a traditional 3-week taper will have your longest and hardest run 3 weeks out from your target marathon. And at the end of your week, it should be about your highest mileage week or your hardest week of training. You then want to reduce your mileage down by about 30% the following week. So how this looks, with 3 weeks to go, try and keep the number of runs you do very similar. Our bodies like the routine of running. You may drop 1 run if you're running 6 times a week maybe, but if you're only running 3 times a week, keep all 3 of those runs. Drop the mileage instead of most of those runs, if not all of those runs. So instead of running a short 5 miles, you may only do 4 miles instead. Instead of a long run of 20 miles, you may only do 14, 16 miles at maximum. Keep the intensity in there, but again, maybe drop the volume of any of your speed sessions if you're feeling tired. So if you normally do 6 reps of 3 minutes, then instead do 4 reps of 3 minutes hard instead. Then when you get to 2 weeks to go, drop your mileage to around 50% of your peak week. So most of this will come from your long runs, maybe only 8 to 10 miles as a maximum, with maybe the middle 4 or 6 of those at your target marathon pace, and the rest of it easy. Get your brain understanding what target marathon pace feels like in that week. And then the final week, which is race week, you should be doing around 20 to 30% of your peak week mileage. And this doesn't include the marathon race, okay? Above all, just try and keep your legs turning over and add in a mile or 2 at marathon pace. So a typical race week could look like this for most of you, or similar depending on sort of the mileage that you was doing. So what I would say is this race week is the same for all of the taper periods, whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks or 4 weeks. This final week is always the same. So Monday, 5 miles, 1 mile easy, 3 miles at race pace, 1 mile very easy. Tuesday's a rest day. Wednesday's only 4 miles, so 1 mile maybe steady to easy. 2 miles at race pace, 1 mile very easy. Thursday's a rest day. Friday is then only 3 miles, so 1 mile steady, 1 mile at race pace, 1 mile very easy. Saturday's a rest. Sunday's your race. Okay, so there you've got 3 rest days in the 6 days leading up to your marathon. So you're running a day, resting a day, running a day, resting a day. Now, what does a 2-week taper look like? So this will be a bit more aggressive because you still need to rest and recover, but more quickly, as your longest and hardest week is that 3rd week from race day. So I would drop your mileage to around 40% of your peak week, drop at least 1 day of running. If running 5 days or more, then possibly drop a second run as well, and only do a final long run that week of 8 miles. Let's have a look at 4-week taper. Okay, now this isn't my preferred option, and unless there is a reason why we needed to do this, I really wouldn't want my clients to opt for a 4-week taper. 4 weeks means that you are likely to be losing fitness before race day. If the need dictates that this is the best option for you, then my advice would be to taper slowly. So peak your longest, hardest run 4 weeks out from race day, then drop your mileage by 20%, 30%, 50% of your peak mileage, and then into race week. Now, above all, okay, all of the takeaways, okay, the key takeaways from today, both from the Strava data and from my years of coaching experience, are the following. A 3-week taper is optimal, okay? 2 weeks is fine for some and often needed, and I would really shy away from 4 weeks unless it's absolutely necessary. Whatever taper you follow it strictly. This means a progressive decrease in mileage. The Strava study found that over 60% of runners who took a relaxed approach to their taper didn't get the full benefits and didn't hit their targets, okay? So you're just wasting all of those long training weeks. Don't forget to do all of the other vital things around your taper as well. So think about your recovery. You need to sleep well, you need to continue to eat well, carb load in the final few days before your race, and hydrate well that final week. Don't take on extra physical projects because you've got more time and you're bored. Don't go renovating the garden or the house or anything like that. You need to rest and relax. Don't worry if you feel any random niggles, okay? Part of this is taper nerves. Part of your body, or part of it may be your body just taking the chance to repair anything that it needs to after your long training cycle. It's doing what it should be doing, okay? If you're concerned or think that you're harbouring an injury and you've got anything that's really unusual or painful, see a physio, okay, and put your mind at rest as soon as possible. The taper will play on your mind, okay? And while some people feel great during the taper, others can feel sluggish, stressed because they're doing less running. All of this is normal, okay? Talk to other runners, share your concerns. If you need any more specific advice, get in touch with a coach or join my Q&A sessions. As I've said, the link's in the notes. Finally, trust in your taper, okay? Trust in your taper and trust in your training. It all works. So well done for making it this far in training. Please do share your taper stories, questions, top tips in the comments below, and let others know that they're not alone. Now, the next marathon focused coaching talk that I'll be doing will be looking at determining your goal marathon pace and how to practice it. Thank you for watching today. Enjoy your running, and I'll see you soon for another coaching talk. Goodbye.